There you go. Love it. It is just after 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Time for Nick to unveil his newest NFL tiers. A little bit clearer picture after 4 weeks on who's a contender, who's a pretender, and who's stuck in the middle with an identity crisis. Nick, buddy, my friend, my colleague, the floor is yours.
Well, Jenna, major movement at the very top and the very bottom, as we always do. We go from 32 to 1, unveil the bottom. Listen, hey, congrats, New York football teams. You're no longer the worst. The Texans, who are an expansion team, and the Jags, the one team they've beaten, they are the two worst teams in football, coaching situations notwithstanding. Jets, Jags, Lions, terrible. Colts, Dolphins, Falcons. Falcons keep breaking my heart, terrible. This next group of 7, they're all 2-2 or 1-3. There's not a good offense aside from Philly between them. There are things about them like the Saints and Steelers. You're like, the defenses are good, but can they overcome the offenses? The answer is no. The Patriots, by the way, just cut Stephon Gilmore, so they don't have reinforcements coming. One of those teams might be alive for the playoffs, but those 15 teams at the bottom are mostly irrelevant. Now, the 17 teams that really matter, let's go to the first grouping. This is why you need the committee. That last standings darlings. Oh, who loves the Raiders, Panthers, Bengals, and Broncos? Between the 4 of them, they're 12-4. They're all 3-1, and none of them are any good. You know it in your heart. You know it in your bones. But you look at the standings, and you're like, well, hey, is it time to start taking the Bengals seriously? Is it time to start bringing up Derek Carr with the best quarterbacks in the AFC? The answer is no. You know the answer is no, but the standings love them. The tiers do not. Who are you? San Francisco, Seattle, and Tennessee. Look in the mirror and ask yourselves, who are you? San Francisco, are you a good defense or are you not? Tennessee, are you the worst defense in football, or are you going to be mediocre? And Seattle, the up and the down, we can't score in the second half, but this week we did. You guys are all dangerous. No one wants to play any of the 3 of you, but you have a bit of an identity crisis. All right, next grouping. And this is where the controversy is going to come in. I can already feel it. Championship ceiling, Bucs, Chargers, Browns, Ravens. All 4 of those teams, at their best, can beat anyone in football. But the Bucs have a beleaguered, injured, bad secondary. The Chargers have no experience whatsoever. The Browns, quietly, have a Baker Mayfield, not problem, but concern early in the season. And the Ravens, you just don't know what you're going to get from the Ravens. Some games they play well enough to beat the Chiefs. Some games they need a 66-yard field goal to beat the Lions. So, but at their best, those 4 teams terrify you. Championship caliber, Rams. Listen, you were the co-favorites. What happened? You got blown out at home. Don't get blown out at home, guys. Not a good thing. The Bills. The Bills' defense has been the best in football. Their offense, surprisingly, has not clicked the way you might say, oh, Nick, they just scored 40 again. I understand that. If you're looking at their passing numbers, it's down from last year, but their defense has been so extraordinary, you have to put them there. Also, you'd like to see them play better competition. Luckily for them, they will this weekend. And the Cowboys. Cowboys look awesome. Right now, they do everything well. This is the highest they've ever been in the committee's tiers. Congrats to them. Hopefully, they stay there. Now, the top 2 tiers. There's some controversy here within the meeting. I did not want to put the Cardinals there, flatly. However, the committee said, Nick, they're 4-0. Kyler's the MVP of the league right now. I said, I know. Have you met their coach? They said, we haven't met him. He has a beautiful house. I said, well, once you meet him, you're not going to have him that high. They said, Nick, we're overruling you. So the Cardinals are right there. The Packers, there's 2 games from week 1 we're ripping up and throwing out. Steelers over Bills, Saints over Packers. We're throwing them out like a low score in figure skating. Doesn't count. Well, the Packers have shown who they actually are. They're top contenders. And then the Chiefs. Chiefs steady themselves. They've punted once in the last 2 weeks, 6 times on the season. Quietly, Mahomes, you know, he's on pace for 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns. So there it is. There's your tiers. Broussard, be honest. It's the best edition yet. There's very, very little to argue about here. What are your thoughts?
All right, first of all, even if it were the best edition yet, it wouldn't be saying much, all right? I mean, look, the Chiefs at the top, I'm not surprised. I can't even act like I'm surprised, all right? I knew this was coming. But I'm getting tired of arguing every week that the Chiefs are perennially ranked too high, Nick. They're 2-2. 2-2. All right, they've got arguably the worst defense in the NFL. They're giving up 31 points a game. That's better only than the Falcons, who you correctly have dropped to the bottom of your rankings pretty much. They can't. I remember, I'm old enough to remember, I'm using your phrase, when they could actually stop the pass. And they just couldn't stop the run. Guess what, Nick? Now they can't stop either. They played hapless Philadelphia last week. Sorry, dreadful Philadelphia. And Philadelphia actually scored on 6 of their 8 possessions. 6 of 8. And one of those possessions they didn't score on ended because of halftime, not because of great defense by your Chiefs. The other possession, it wasn't a punt. So they never punted against your Chiefs. So that's enough of that. But for them to be number 1, come on, man, that's crazy. Tampa Bay, again, too low, but I've talked about that as well. Here's my major beef outside of Kansas City. Buffalo and Green Bay should exchange places. Buffalo should be a number 1 contender, and Green Bay should fall down to championship caliber. All right, and Green Bay, Nick, we can't just forget what happened on opening night or opening weekend when they got crushed by the New Orleans Saints, all right, who probably should be on the Who Are You, because they're kind of up and down. They got a good win over a San Francisco team that's not quite as good as we think, right? We found that out. And then they beat Pittsburgh, who is just falling apart, and Detroit. So Green Bay's, you talked about Buffalo not being that impressive. Buffalo has scored 35 or more points in the last 3 weeks. They've scored 40 or more the last 2 weeks. You talked about the offense. Offense is more than passing, my man. The passing, Josh Allen is not doing what he did last year because it's not needed yet. All right, the run game is top 5 in the league behind Devin Singletary. Defensively, you said it. Right. Number 1 in the league. They stopped the run. They stopped the pass. Buffalo is legit, and I'll be interested to see what happens in your tiers next week should they topple your Kansas City Chiefs. That's a real threat.
If they beat the Chiefs, they'll probably skyrocket to the top. Here, let me just respond to Buffalo quickly here. The problem for Buffalo is competition. Pittsburgh, Houston, let me get it exactly right. Miami with Brissett and Washington. So that defense has been excellent, but it has also gone up against Big Ben, Jacoby Brissett, Taylor Heineke, who I like, and Davis Mills. So this is kind of like they're playing like they're a Big Ten team that's feasting on some non-con before they get to the conference schedule. I want to see how real that defense is once they start playing real offenses. Luckily for them, they play the realest of offenses this weekend, and we will get to find out. So listen, Buffalo it's available to them, Wilds. Go beat Kansas City, and you skyrocket up and the Chiefs fall. We'll see.
I agree, my friend. I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I have one correction, Nick. And if you remember, that's why I was outside of your home waiting for the invite. I don't know if your buzzer is not working, but I was hitting it because I did get the invite. But it's okay. It's no big deal because I brought the petition here for the one change I would have made. But next week, call the foreman or whatever. Make sure your buzzer's working because I was outside. Okay, here's my petition on moving the Bucs up one tier. And I was going to say this last night. I don't know if you heard me shouting from the sidewalk, but I was going to do it. Here's the petition to move the Bucs up. Reason number 1, the rush defense. The rushing defense, 2 yards and a cloud of dust. The only team allowing less than 3 yards per rush, a total of 190 rush yards. They're the best in 2019, best in 2020, best in 2021. Just held the Patriots to -1 yard. They have given up a total of 1 rushing touchdown. This is an all-time historic great rushing defense. They should move up. Reason number 2, back to business for the GOAT. People are like, well, I just saw him play a bad game. Yeah, you know what? Your team does not have Bill Belichick and 20 years of info on the guy. He's not going to play that bad in any other game. He still has the most completions, the 2nd most yards, and the 3rd most TDs of all quarterbacks. The GOAT will remain the GOAT. And finally, people are like, well, Wilds, what about that pass defense? Pass defense is terrible. Pass defense is terrible. Don't get me wrong. Although you saw Mac Jones, and he played great, regardless, they are going to feast on their upcoming schedule, their next 4 games. Also, I think they could get Gilmore. I know you think he's going to Kansas City. Actually, think he can go to Tampa Bay. Next 4 games, Dolphins, 30th ranked offense. Eagles, 9th, but that number's a little inflated because they did play the Chiefs. Bears, last. Jameis, last. Oh, MVP? Who knows? Last, second to last, worst offense, but maybe still MVP. So, Nick, I was outside kind of trying to tell you this stuff, but I don't know, the window, it's starting to get cold, October. I didn't know if you heard me, so I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to do it on the show. I will be there next week.
No problem. Okay, don't show up. You're not on the committee. We don't have any openings. Greg Jennings flew in and flew out. Apologies that you were not included, but Greg Jennings took your spot. And Greg Jennings, because of his commitment to fitness, he actually takes up 2 seats now. So your seat was taken up by Greg's biceps, so you weren't there.
My seat, though.
Let me deal with the Bucs. Certain things. This is why the committee is superior to standings or power rankings. Sometimes you get more credit for a loss than a win. So, for example, the Browns' most impressive performance of the year was their loss to Kansas City. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers just won a game, and they got dinged for it. The fact that they couldn't score 20, the fact that that game came down...